Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sisterhood Checkin. I am your author and coach, Nadira Lewis, and it is Friday. Woo! I am so excited every time Friday comes. You guys have no idea of the things that I have to go through just to prepare for Sisterhood Check-in, but I'm excited. I'm not complaining because this is something that I love to do. This is something that I feel like God has called me to do. And I don't take for granted the things that God has called me to do. So I do take it very seriously because my goal is to bring impact every time I come live here. And I cannot wait for you to be able to join in and hear some of the things that God has shown me. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so that you can be notified every time we upload or I upload a video. If you're watching me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, make sure you click like and share if you are blessed by the content that you are seeing this far. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm trying to go ahead and log on to Instagram. So bear with me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and log in so our Instagram watchers can join in with us. So bear with me one moment. Put it in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. Hold on one second. All right. Just had to go ahead and go live on all the platforms because I do not want you to miss what I'm actually going to be talking tonight. So call up your girlfriends and let them know Sisterhood Check-in is on the air, and we'll be right back after this. And make sure go get your coffee, get you a notebook, because I don't want you to miss out on this. I don't want you. Yes, the replay will be available, but call up your girlfriends and tell them Sisterhood Check-in is on the air, and I'll be right back after this.
Sometimes it's not enough to be reminded that Jesus hasn't left you or forgotten you. We need to declare it over ourselves, over others. No matter the season you may find yourself in, no matter the depths of darkness you're wading through, you can join him in declaring the truth that God is light upon your feet, whether or not you can see the next step, that God is your strength, even though the weight of life seems to be crushing you down. And that when your job, your marriage, your relationship, your health feels like it's coming to a dead end, there is only one God that can make dead things live again. These are his promises, and they're the only thing you need to declare over your life. So as you step into this next season or this next moment, you can declare that God's not done with you. He's just getting started. You can declare that the good work that he has started in you, he will surely complete it. You can declare that the same God that parted the seas goes before you, goes behind you. You can declare these promises over your life, over your family's life, over the people passing on the street. You can declare these truths over every circumstance, over every season of your life. You can declare that every day belongs to him and every new breath belongs to him. Because we have the power of a living God living inside of us. And this is our declaration.
Whoa, that was powerful. We have the power of the living God living on the inside of us, and this is our declaration. So I'm going to try to step back a little bit. somehow this just not working the way I want to. But so welcome back to Sisterhood Check-in. I'm so glad that you guys are here joining me. And I wanted to talk about today. And it's crazy because I didn't even put the topic up here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put this topic in while we go ahead. I've had a lot of stuff going on today. And so I'm like kind of like late with a whole bunch of stuff. But the question I wanted to ask, and this is going to be the title, is what is what is what is your hands? That's what I love about this, because you know what? This lets you know you don't have to be perfect to do this. You just got to be willing and available, right? You're going to have some stuff going on. I've been doing this for 5 years and I'm still overcoming some stuff. But today's topic again is what is in your hand. And the reason why I wanted to talk about what was in your hand, because I think sometimes we don't really pay attention to the things that God put in the midst of us, right? We are looking for things outside of us. We're looking for things that are beyond our reach in order to fulfill what we feel like God has called us to do, right? But my question to you is, what is in your hands? What is God giving you stewardship over, right? In order to bring multiplication, manifestation, because he told us to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, right? Well, part of that multiplication isn't just about us being able to develop families, but being able to take whatever God places in your hand, right? And be able to multiply it, right? God's math is different than the world's math. You know, God multiplies, right? He doesn't just add, he multiplies. That's God's mathematics situation, right? So sometimes when we're younger and we're figuring out life and we're going through different things, we're not really taking time to really look at the tools and nuggets that we actually gain as we're actually growing and maturing, right? When you're a teenager, there's certain things that you learn in your teenage years, right? That you may still carry along with you in your 30s, 20s, 40s, and even 50s, right? Or even later, right? There's some things, there's some skill sets, there's some talents, there's some nuggets, some things that you have, right? When I think about, it's funny because when I was having this conversation with my son and I was telling him how, you know, when he was like very small, like I didn't have a whole lot, right? So my thing was, I didn't see the examples that I'm about to show you as a way of being resourceful. I just thought, you know, it was just like survival. And not realizing that not only was I surviving, I was surviving because of the tools that I had gained as a result of the things that I was going through. So I was telling him an example how I was working this job and I wanted to work from home. And back then, working from home was not really a big deal, right? And the crazy part is the hourly wage, when you look at now, was nothing like how the hourly wage is now, right? And it was funny because I think the wage, this was like in 2000, I believe 2002, because my son was small. Adam was like, I think he was maybe like a couple of months old or something like that. He wasn't even that old. And I remember I've always desired to be able to work at home or be at home the majority of the day because I wanted to be able to spend time with my kids, right? So what I started to do was I started to think of, okay, what can I do? So I found this job. And I was working this job and everybody there were like military wives. They all had fancy computers. They had all the new stuff that the instructor had told us to bring to class in order for us to prove that we have the resources to work from home. So here I was saying to myself like, oh, you know, I don't have the resources that they do. I have to work extra hard because we had just bought our house. And so our finances were extremely tight. And so what I did was I said, you know what? I'm gonna look at what I do have. What do I have in my hand? So I was able to cook. I know how to cook, and everybody that knows me know I love to cook, right? So I went and I bought some chicken, I bought some fish, I bought macaroni, I made some macaroni and cheese, I made some vegetables, and I started to sell dinners. So check this out. Follow me. So here I am training while these other ladies they didn't really have to work at all because their husbands were in the military. They wasn't really going through anything financially. So this was like something for them to do. For me, it was my livelihood. And so it was at a point where it was a make or break for me. So I had to make this work. And so after the training, which was, I think it was like 2 months after the training, and you proved that you were able to work from home, then what they would do is they would send you home as long as you can prove that you have all of the material and all of the stuff that you need, the right computer. So they had to test the computer. You had to bring it in. So here I am struggling like, oh my gosh, I don't even have a computer. So I had to be resourceful and figure out, how can I get a computer, right? Because my ex-husband had his own computer and he was working from home doing his business. And I had to figure out a way to get a computer for myself. So it's funny because when you look back, you think like, man, I didn't have to really, like, I'll tell you nowadays, when you think about, how things are now, it's like people don't look at what's in their hand and they just complain about what they have instead of looking at what do I have. Right. So I went and I worked. I started to sell these dinners. So I had a contract with, what was it? Sunbelt. I had a contract with Grange. I was going to all these places and I was providing them lunch between the hours of 11 to 1. Right. And my training was in the evening. So I got to do this, fix these dinners and go through my training so that I can get up enough money to get a computer, to have a computer by the time training class was over, so that I can be able to prove that I was capable of working from home and doing well at it. So anyway, long story short, I began to sell these dinners and I made I want to say like $175 to $200 a day. I made $175 to $200 a day. And it's funny because I was working and I remember telling my ex-husband at the time, and he was like, like you making the house, smell like chicken and fish. The house is going to be stinking, smelling like chicken and fish. But when I would come back every day and I had this little box that I would put all the money in from me collecting from all the dinners that I was creating. And so he was like, wow, you made this much money in 2 hours? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, wow, like, okay. So I guess it didn't matter that the kitchen was stinking and smelling like fish and chicken because of the amount of money I was making in the middle of 2 hours. Like I was literally making this money in 2 hours. And so get to the class, right? And almost towards the end, I get the computer. I show that I have the computer. And as I'm getting the computer, I wind up I was feeling a little intimidated because I was looking at the ladies that were around me and I was envying their journey. I was envying my journey because I was looking at their life, right? I was looking at their life because I was looking at the fact that why do I have to work extremely hard? Why do I have to be resourceful? Why I didn't look at it as God was training me and showing me how to be a good steward over the things that he was giving me, how to make the most out of any situation. And that would carry on with me in the years to come, right? Because I didn't know I had no idea of the things that I was going to be facing as the years got closer. And so here I was in the class with these women. And so everybody that was in the class, I want to say there was maybe like 20 of us. After we get done with the class, I wound up being the top salesperson, right? With this company. It was called the National Magazine Exchange. And so we had to sell magazines. And so we got paid a percentage, a base pay, and then we got paid a commission off of each magazine that we sold. And so that's when, for me, story time began for me, because you had to be able to convince these people that that's actually calling you and that you're calling, because we had to do both, right? You had to convince them that these magazines was going to give them the end result that they were looking for, which means if they were looking to be to have vacations, or if you would have conversations with them and they would tell you, oh, you would ask them, our number one question we had to ask them is, what will you do if you won $1 million, right? That was the number one question we had to ask them. And based on those, and because the purpose of that was to be able to determine what type of magazines that they would be more interested in to buy. So I started to perfect the idea and became the number one salesperson out of the group of women that I was with. And it's crazy because none of them in my class survived past a month. And I wind up there the longest, and I made the most money, and I did exceptionally well with all the challenges and everything that I went through, right? And so I say all that to say that I heard a man say this, on the internet, Myron Golden, and he said something that was so profound. And he said the work that the work does on you, right, is better than is preparing you for the work for the work that is preparing to do through you. And I never really understood that till I began to look through all of the things that I went through, and I started to realize, wait a minute, he might have a point about this. That sometimes when we're in the beginning of learning, right, learning and navigating through different seasons of our lives, we have to look beyond the fact that we're surviving, we're going through. We have to look at what is it that God is trying to teach us in this situation? What is it that he's trying to show us? Because he doesn't leave us without any resources. And the problem is not that we're not able to do or fulfill the things that God called us to do. The problem is we lack finances because we lack resources. We lack resources because we lack resourcefulness, right? And the minute I started to grasp that concept of being resourceful, it changed my life, right? Because I saw it as, I didn't look at it as, oh, I'm just being resourceful. I looked at it as, I'm going to make work whatever I have, right? Whatever I got, if it's whatever talent or gift I have, if I know how to cook, then that is what I'm going to focus on. If I know how to do hair, and I did all of it, right? I went to hair school. I went to school to become a skincare specialist. I used whatever I had, right, to create an income for me and my family, even when I was married, even as a single mom. I had all kinds of challenges that came against me. My car broke down, right? And I would, set up to go to different, because I was a licensed skincare specialist, I was able to participate in a lot of what you would consider the health screenings, right? And they had all kinds of people that were there at the health screening, but it was my resourcefulness, right? My ability to look at what I do have. And even though I went to school with a whole bunch of different people, and some people went to go on to be makeup artists, some people went to start their own business doing different things, I began to use what was in my hand to be able to take it to the community to benefit them, right? And one thing I've learned is that not only do God give us creativity, but he also gives us the desire to connect and to contribute, right? So your gifts that you have are not just for you and you only. Your gifts is not for you to sit around all day and just create. Because I know that when you're a creator, sometimes you get caught up and you get lost in creating and doing all kinds of stuff that you forget to do things that are income producing, right? That you forget to do things that's going to bring the results that you need. And sometimes sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes we get focused on producing the income that we forget to connect with people and make an impact. And when you don't connect with people, you can't make an impact, right? Because your goal is, if we're doing things in the way of the kingdom, because he told us to seek first the kingdom of God and all of his way of doing things. Well, what is his way of doing things? His way of doing things is to put him first and to put people first, to esteem others above yourself, to figure out ways to serve people in your gifts and what was in your hand. So what did I do? I started to serve my community, right? In the way of, I started to serve my community by going to these health screenings. And so when I would go to these health screenings, I would go and I would provide free facials, right? And in those free facials, I started to develop my own product. I had my own skincare line. I had my own bath and body products. I think during that time, I probably, I won't say I was the only one, but I was mainly the one during that time that was doing a lot of products, and going public and really going hard with it. So I would go to these skincare places and I would, before we started doing email marketing nowadays, the way we do it now, I was doing email marketing in the form of, paper, right? So I would have people, I didn't have all the other stuff that other people did, but I took what I did have and made it work. I knew that I had a personality. I knew I loved to connect with people. I knew that I can serve people, right? I knew I had a heart. So God blessed my business, IBG Skincare. And I began to go into these places and I began to go and I would have leads for months. I would go to a healthcare event 3 or 4 times a year and have enough leads to take care of me and my children for months at a time, right? And I had no other income. And I started to feel during that time that I started to compare myself to other people. And I was like, oh, well, I started to look outside of my lane and look at the way other people were doing it. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm not, maybe I need to do it because it's not at the level that I want it to be, right? But what was happening is I was making impact and I was growing my small business at a very, as a young single mom, right? With no income, right? Had been recently divorced, had no income, and I had to be resourceful. I had to look at the gifts that God had put in my hand, and I had to make the most with what I had. And so in doing that, I was able to create an income for me and my children that lasted for a while. I haven't literally worked for anybody in terms of an employee for many, many, many years, right? Because of my ability to be resourceful. And so and I wanted to kind of go through this. I kind of took some notes. I don't want to keep going and I forget about my notes, but I want to talk about, basically, let's talk about the what resourcefulness really is. So bear with me. I'm going to put these in here and I want you to, delete some of this stuff right here. I'm going to put this in there so that you can follow along with me. What is resourcefulness, right? Resourcefulness is, hold on, let me put this as resourcefulness is the ability to find quick and clever ways. Hold on, let me put this in here. This is part of it. To find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties and make the most of available resources, right? Again, resourcefulness refers to the ability to find clever ways to overcome difficulties and make the most of available resources. Most of the time, our lack or inability to get something done is just simply because we are not paying attention, right, to the things that God has placed in our hand. We are so busy looking at how other people are doing things, and we're instead of looking at what other people are doing as a source of inspiration, we're looking at it from a defeated perspective. And what you have to realize, I've learned over the years, it doesn't matter if somebody has more than you monetarily. What matters is, what do you do with what you do have? How do you make what God put in your hand work for you and your family, right? When you think about resourcefulness, right? When you think about resourcefulness, it involves creativity, problem-solving skills, and adaptability, enabling individuals to navigate challenges effectively using what they already have, right? So sometimes we're asking God for more. God, give me more. God, I need this. God, I need this. But we don't realize that that being resourceful means it involves your creativity, your problem-solving skills, adaptability, and it enables individuals to navigate challenges effectively using what they already have. In other words, side note, all that stuff that you've gone through, all the stuff that you've had to learn throughout your life, what has it taught you? Are you paying attention to the skills that God is giving you in the midst of the stuff that you're dealing with? If you look at your life over the past couple of years, what skill sets or things that you've learned, right, that helped you get to where you are now? Because if you're not paying attention and the only thing you're thinking about is what you don't have, you are missing the point. And it doesn't matter how many times somebody tried to show you how to do something. If you mismanage the lessons that God give you in your life, you're going to miss this. A resourceful person often thinks outside of the box, and they normally repurpose materials and seek innovative solutions rather than relying solely on external support. That means you might be in a situation where you might not have anybody to depend on. You might have nobody but just you, right? You might feel like, like, I don't have nobody here. Nobody here is to help me. Every time nobody's here to support me. Nobody understands what I'm going through. But you don't need, there are times when you will need support, but there are times where you have to muster up what's already in your hand and go for it, right? I can remember times I didn't have, I had to just deal with it. I had to suck it up, because in that, right, God teaches you how to steward, right, the things that you have. Proverbs 31:16 says, she considers a field and buys it, and out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So what are you doing with the things that are coming into your hands? If you're not being a good steward over if you're not taking inventory over the things that God has given you, you're gonna be looking for things, and you're gonna be looking for resources and expecting people to place things in your hand when He's already given it to you if you pay attention. Everybody that has become great has first became great in their mind first. And I realized that it doesn't matter even your ability to be aware of the things that God put in your hand. If your mind is not right, you're not going to be able to see the things that God has for you. So I realize it's not even necessarily our lack of resourcefulness. Sometimes it's just your mind is jacked up, right? Sometimes you are so focused on things that are happening around you that your mind is not in a place to even see what's in your hand. And Proverbs 31:16 this verse illustrates careful planning and making wise investments based on available resources. I'll give you an example. If you know that you only making a certain amount of money that's going to be able to cover your bills, it is unwise, unhealthy, and foolish for you to take your resources and buy something that doesn't generate revenue for your family. It is foolish to spend all of your resources on things that are not going to contribute to not only your well-being, but contribute to your health, to your children, to your mental well-being. If you're taking your money and you spending it on things that are going to perish, it's a complete waste of stewardship and resources. Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as sure. Hold on one second. Let me post it up here so you can go along with me. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. So when you think about what it means to be diligent, that means you on it, you persistent, you doing what you got to do. And that means that you're doing whatever God tell you to do. And success is different, in the kingdom than it is in the world. Most people, I'm not talking about success in terms of just only finances, right? Success is doing what God called you to do. And in doing what God called you to do, He says in His word in Matthew 6:33 that all these things that you seek, that they're going to be added to you, right? So God can't add to you, right, if you're not going in the direction that He wants you to do. Now, you can go and do some things on your own and figure out some things on your own, but there is no real genuine fulfillment unless you're fulfilling the call of God on your life and allowing Him to add things to you. And that add doesn't mean He just giving it to you and you're not having to work for it. It just means that you're positioning yourself to seek Him first and to make sure that His way of doing things is your first priority. What does doing things His right way look like? It means pursuing righteousness, doing things the right way. That means that money is not going to just fall out of the sky and just fall in your hand. You have to pursue purpose, right? You have to pursue purpose, pursue righteousness, right? As you're pursuing him and you're blessing people and you're contributing to other people's lives, people, and you exchange and you build up enough value, right? That people will want to exchange their finances for what you have, right? If you don't spend the time and energy taking and using the resources that you have to build value for the person that you're trying to exchange, people, they're not going to want to do it. People are not going to want to do it because people don't care about you and your process. They don't care about how long it took you to build this product or service. They don't care about how it makes you feel. All they care about is their transformation. How is this going to help me? How is this going to help me? And they have to be able to know and trust that you're going to be the one to provide them the value that they need in order to get the transformation that they want. Matthew 25:14-30 talks about the parable of the talents. And in this parable, servants are given different amounts of money in terms of talents to manage. And those who invest and multiply their resources were praised, while one who had one talent buried it because of fear he was going to be criticized. This teaches the value of using and being resourceful with what you have. Here you are, an example with the talents where God gave some, I think it was 10 talents, another one 5, and then he gave another one 1, right? So in those different examples, he had given them a certain amount of gifts and skill sets, right? And his ultimate goal was for it to be multiplied. For it to be multiplied. When he came back, he wanted to see that whatever I've given you, you've multiplied. And that doesn't just only apply to money. It means if I impart wisdom into you, if I impart a certain skill set into you, if I impart something in you, I expect a return. Meaning I expect you to grow from the things that I've imparted into you. I've expected you to at least give me something to show that my investment was not wasted. And there was the one person that had only one talent, right? And his fear of being criticized, or his fear of feeling like he wasn't going to be good enough, stopped him from investing or taking that talent or that gift and putting it where it needs to be so that it can grow. And God was so angry with him. He said, look, he called them foolish and he called them wicked. Foolish and wicked, right? He said, you could have gave it to the other people and at least I would have got a return. And so some of us are walking around here with different gifts, different talents, different things that God has put a burden in our heart to bring change and transformation in other people's lives. But we are so afraid, right? I don't know if it's going to be good enough. I don't know if it's going to be like Sister Buttercup. I don't know if what God called me to do is going to be as good as this person. It doesn't matter. God put something in you that is specific and that only you can do it the way he designed it to do it. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have multiple people doing different things, but God designed you and called you to a specific task or purpose, and he expected you to do it, and he accumulated the years of your life to bring forth the things that he's given you. And you don't have any more time or anything less to fulfill the call of God on life. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26-28 says, then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, right? So everything that God has placed on the inside of you is already there. You don't have to go outside of you. You don't have to, roll a crystal ball to figure out what it is. I don't go to an Android phone to figure out how to work an iPhone, right? I go to the manufacturer's website, or I go to the Apple store if I'm having issues with being able to get my iPhone to function the way it needs to function. And that's what happens with us. We are not looking to God to figure out, okay, God, I know I have this gift. I know I'm able to do this. I have the gift to encourage. I have the gift to do this. Or I know I have many things that I'm passionate about, and I just don't feel like it's producing any fruit. I feel like I'm spinning my head. I feel like I'm doing things and I'm not producing anything, and it can be frustrating. I get it. But in Deuteronomy 18, he says, He said, God, he says, forget, matter of fact, let me pull it up. I don't want to just say it just because, and then I wind up saying something, and then you got some people that'll be crucifying me because I'm not saying the exact words. So let me just pull it up, right? Deuteronomy chapter 18, right? For all my Bible readers, right? And for all of those that are interested to know what God is saying. All right. In Deuteronomy chapter 18, let's look at what he said. Hold on. And this is important. I want you to pay attention to this. I want you to pay attention to what he said. Bear with me one moment. Give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up. My computer is full of so. Well, while it's pulling up, I'm going to continue to talk. So, God in Deuteronomy, it talks about the power to get wealth, right? And here he was telling the children of Israel, right? Hold on. Let's type this in. He was telling the children of Israel, right, to not forget him. Deuteronomy 8:18, right? Finally fills up. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. Okay. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, but thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers as it is this day, right? So God gives us the power, right? That doesn't mean he put it in our hand and do all the work for us. That means he gives us the ability to be able to be resourceful. He gives us, when he created us, he gave us everything that we need pertaining to life and godliness, right? You have everything that you need to become all that you need to become in this lifetime. And God already, you don't have to look, you don't have to search. He's already told you. He's giving you the power, the ability, right, to get wealth. And he give it to you for a reason, to establish. That's why you have to pursue righteousness and you have to pursue his way of doing things, because his way of doing things is he wants to establish his covenant here on earth. So most of you are frustrated because you're not seeing the manifestation of what God has for you, because you don't have in mind the kingdom. Even though you're trying to figure out, spin your wheels, like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't even know. Because you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. You're looking at your gift, and he says that it is him, right, that gives you the power to get wealth so he can establish his covenant, right? He can establish his covenant. So if he already knows that what you have need of, the things that we're asking and we're praying about, and he gives us specific instructions and tells us to seek first his way of doing things, right? And some of us may be, well, I've done that. I pray 3 times a day. I do this. I go to church. I do this. And I'm still not seeing a manifestation, because what you have to realize is if what he said in Deuteronomy chapter 18, to remember the Lord thy God, for it is him that gives you the power to get wealth, so he can establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers. And it shall be, if thou do it all, forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day, you shall surely perish, right? And though he was talking to the children of Israel, we can take lessons from this. Right? We can take lessons from this, that when God gives us or imparts something on the inside of us, he imparts it on the inside of us so that we can establish his kingdom. But I said in the last Sisterhood Check-in, and I'm going to keep saying this until I feel like God tells me to stop. But your revelation of him reveals your revelation of God reveals who you are. Right? You can't know, even if you have some idea of what you're good at in terms of skills, you really can't really maximize your gifting. You can't really maximize until you know who God is and what he has shown you about you. Because when you begin to see who he is, you begin to see and understand the plans and purposes that God reveals to you about your life. And then you realize that your life is not just about you. It's about establishing his covenant. So though you might be gifted in a particular area, you might know how to do many things, because a lot of us know how to do many things, right? If you have not understood this one thing, that your gifts, right? And your skills are supposed to be used to enhance the kingdom of God, right? And that doesn't mean go around quoting scriptures all day and being churchy. No, it means understand that we have a responsibility to serve other people, not just in the building. We have a responsibility to serve people with our gifts, right? We have a responsibility to contribute, right, to the earth. We have a responsibility to connect, to be not only be creative, but to connect and contribute, right? So you might be a person, you might be good at cooking, and I've seen people that cook extremely well, right? And use their gifting of cooking they're using their resources to be a blessing. And in the midst of being a blessing to people, there is an exchange of the things that they need. It's being added to them. You cook for somebody and they bless you so much, you might in exchange give them something in return or in exchange because of how much they've connected with you and imparted into you, right? And I think what's happening in today's society, especially with today's entrepreneurs, we're so success minded in terms of trying to do things so that we can get the end result, right? Instead of doing the inward work and allowing God to do some things on the inside of us so that we can produce the fruit, right, that we want to see in our lives. If you're not contributing to the lives of other people, and in order to contribute, you got to be able to connect with people. You got to get out your comfort zone, right? You got to be resourceful, right? You got to look at, what does God have in my hand? There is no success apart from purpose. I'm going to say that again. There is no success apart from purpose. Maybe I need to say that again for the people in the back. There is no success outside and apart from purpose. That doesn't mean that there's money. That doesn't mean that there isn't money apart from purpose, but there is no success, because in the kingdom, right, he told us what success looks like for a believer. Success for the believer is pursuing righteousness, pursuing things the way God expects us to, pursuing righteousness, pursuing his way of doing things, and all the things that we need and desire to function on this earth will be added to us. That's hard to articulate to today's modern entrepreneur, because all we know is hustle, hustle, grind, hustle, hustle, grind, hustle, hustle, grind. The problem with hustle, hustle, grind is you're putting in all the effort, right? You're putting in all the effort and you're burning yourself out. You're burning yourself out. You're burning yourself out because you're doing everything in your own strength. You're doing stuff in your own strength. Back in the day when they had, when we lived in a society, people, you might have been a person that had the cow and you made the eggs and the butter and the milk. And then you over here, you might have been a carpenter. You were able to build houses and build furniture and build things. And so we both had value. We both understood our value. So the person who was a carpenter understood their value. When it comes to somebody who did not have, they knew that they were able to, they were gifted and they were equipped with what they need to bring about the results of a person that was looking for what they had. So you've got to, being resourceful means taking what you have, right? Taking what you have and looking and seeing who needs what God has imparted on the inside of me. Who needs this? Your work is to figure out who needs what God put on the inside of me. But when you start showing up and you do the internal work and you do things in alignment with the way God has designed them to be, you will start seeing you will start to draw people that are looking for what you need. In 2 Corinthians, it said, we are bought with a price. You will find your purpose at the intersection of your passion and your proficiency. And I heard that from Myron Golden. It was so powerful. You will find your purpose at the intersection of passion, your passion and proficiency. What is it that's causing you that's causing you frustration? What is it that you feel like you have the ability and the capability to solve because of a skill set that you have either learned or that God has given you, right? The Bible says, in all labor, there is profit. All work works. It's either working on you or it's working for you. What do you mean by that, Nadira? Knowing that all work works, that means that you might be feeling like, I'm good at doing this. I am good, and I'm good in technology and tech skills. I can fix anything. I can put things together. I can take something that's broken and I can put it together, but I'm not seeing any financial results as a result of it. Well, all work works, right? So if you're working something, and sometimes the main thing we always hear, if it ain't working, if it ain't producing you anything, then just, then leave it alone. But sometimes your ability to stick things through and learn from it before, there may be some things that you might be doing that God may say, look, I might be teaching you patience. I might be teaching you endurance. I might be teaching you how to navigate difficulty, how to be resourceful, because sometimes we feel like, oh, if it ain't working one time, we ready to go. Oh, I know God called me to do this. Oh, it ain't working the way I want to. Oh, I'm out. I'm done. It must not be meant for me to do it. And the reality is that God gives you things. He places gifts and talents on the inside of you so that you can increase your skill set. Your skill set is what you need. Skill sets is something you can learn. People can teach you things and show you how to do something that maybe you didn't know how to do. But your gift and talent is God given. It's something that God has given you that didn't require anything. And so what we have to do is learn how to take the resources, the gifts and talents, figure out what it is that God has called us to do, and figure out, how do I make this work? How do I serve people with this? How do I take what I know, right? I might be a mom, and I may have found a way to be able to help other moms be more organized, right? And you might say, well, that don't really mean nothing. Now, a lot of them, there's all these YouTube videos. There's all this going on. Nobody's going to really listen to me anyway. But if you stick to it and you do it the way God designed you to do, eventually the work that you'll realize, you'll develop the stamina for patience. When I first started Sisterhood Checkin, even though I have had a lot of different experiences in learning how to do different things, I was terrified because I felt like, oh, I don't want to go live. I don't like the way I sound. I'm probably not going to even make sense. There's sometimes I used to do Sisterhood Checkin, and I used to be like, I'm going to shut this thing down because I feel like I'm all over the place, right? But every Friday I would get up and I would keep doing it. And this year will be 5 years that I continue to do it. And I have grown so much that I know that even though there may be sometimes I get on here, it might be one person watching. And then I might get up here, and then there'll be another day, somebody might have 30 people that have watched. And then another week I might get on there and it may be 100 people that watch, right? I did a video I have 2 YouTube channels. I have one, Coaching with Nadira, where I just do straight coaching videos. And then I have another channel with Sisterhood Checkin, where I do the podcast, where I'm just talking to women, and I have guests on, and we talk about our life and our testimony and our businesses. And in the Coaching with Nadira YouTube channel, here I was thinking that this video was not going to, nobody's probably going to listen. 500 people watched that video that I talked about in terms of atmosphere, the power of atmosphere. 500 people watched the power of atmosphere. But here I was concerned about all the mediocre things that didn't even really matter, because my main goal was, even in doing this, whether I have one person or whether I have 500 or whether I have 10 people, I'm going to be faithful for what God has placed in my hand. And as I begin to grow and increase in my ability to provide value to the people that are watching, then there is going to be exchange, whether you're going to purchase my books, or whether you're going to purchase my journals, or whether you're going to take a part, you're going to join my Wisdom Academy and take some of my life lessons or my entrepreneurial courses. there is going to be an exchange the more I increase in providing value. So your goal should not be per se of let me go and let me just figure out how I can just make money first. No, figure out how you can make an impact. Figure out what it is that God called you to do that thing and perfect it, right? And then as you begin to grow, because I'm so grateful when I think about a couple of years ago, the things that I wanted to do, the things that I've asked God for, and I was passionate about. I'm glad he didn't give it to me at the time that he did, because I would have self-sabotaged. Because you have to grow into the person that you need to be in order to fulfill what it is that you think you prepared to do for God. There is some growth. There is some personal development that has to take place, right? So that the value that you bring to other people will be able to perceive the value that you're able to bring. But if you are just only focused on, I just need income, I need this, then you're going to fall flat on your face really quickly. And sometimes you might have to work a regular job. You might have to, and that's fine, because working a regular job is not in altogether bad, because working at a regular job helps build up different skill sets, right? I didn't just decide that, me becoming, a podcaster, this was a result. I did this in a shelter when I lived in a shelter. I had a mentoring program in my house, right? That I was doing this before I became a podcaster, right? I was speaking into people's lives and encouraging people before I got on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all these other platforms. I was encouraging people when nobody wasn't paying attention. I was encouraging teenage girls and young single mothers, and even mothers that have been married and going through things in their marriage. I was encouraging people before you saw me on a Facebook post. And I started to grow and develop and perfect my skill set and my ability to talk. And I'm still doing that, right? So that my value can increase. And then one day, and all of a sudden I started writing books and journals. And then there were exchanges, right? People began to take my courses. They wanted to learn from me, right? They wanted to know, how did you get from here? How did you, what caused you, or what motivated you to get to where you are now? And that doesn't mean I'm exactly where I want to be at all the time, but the growth that's taking place on the inside of me because of my resourcefulness, my ability to take what I have, not longing for what somebody else has. I'm not longing to be, to be like the person on the left or the person on the right. My only desire is to become the woman that God has called me to be. Because in becoming the woman that God has created me to be, I have the ability in my mouth and in my actions and in my contributions and in my books and in my courses to transform the lives of the people that are assigned to me. So I'm not trying to reach people that are not assigned to me. If you're not assigned to me, I'm really okay with that. Because I know that the people that are assigned for me are going to learn. There's going to be an exchange of value, and it's up to you to take that. It's up to you to see that. It's up to you to take what God has given you and to do something with it. If you look at most people who are in a place where they're not even focused on anything else, they are so consumed with the will of God for their life that the evidence and the fruit that's coming as a result of this is just happening. They're not even looking for it. It's just happening. Working outside of your purpose is not going to be fulfilling. You could do a lot of things, and I want to talk about this, but before I get into working outside of your purpose, because there's a lot that I really want to unpack with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a commercial break, and I wanted to share some things with you, but I want you guys to stay with me, because I want to, the second half that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to unpack what happens when you're working outside of your purpose. You get into that hustle mode, right? You get in that hustle mode, and sometimes you might have to do that, but focus, and we'll get into more. I'm not gonna spoil it. But if you are watching me and you just getting on saying, what in the heck is this girl talking about? What is she talking about? Go back and watch the video from the beginning and make sure you put hashtag replay. Call up your girlfriends and tell them Sisterhood Check-In is on the air. Man, I feel like I'm a little hoarse right now. I feel like I've been shouting and stuff. I've never, I'm telling you, I'm so excited to be in a position where I am now, because I know, right, that there's nothing more fulfilling than being in a place where God has called you to be. Nothing more fulfilling than being in a place where God has called you to be. Because now it doesn't matter, that you're not doing what people want you to do or expect you to do. When you do what God called you to do, there is a certain level of fulfillment, contentment that comes when you're obedient to his voice. So we're going to be right back. I'm going to play this quick commercial, and we'll go ahead with part 2 with what is in your hand, learning how to be resourceful.
Help me to trust him again with my heart and not be scared, looking over my shoulder when it comes to his actions because I felt betrayed by him. Help me to trust his good intentions towards me.
May not be physically with you.
They're in your church.
But I am sitting next to you.
Different face.
Different name. Same story, though, that goes like this.
I've done some terrible things in my life.
Some of them I chose to do.
And I own these choices.
But others, I just feel like I was swept up in a series of circumstances that didn't involve my will.
They just sort of happened to me.
I've become the culmination of those choices and circumstances.
So I guess I just need to say it.
I really need some help.
Hi, I'm Nadira, author, life and business coach, and founder of the Sisterhood Checkin podcast. I help women take their life experiences and turn them into life lessons. Book a call with me at bit.ly/coaching with Nadira. I look forward to helping you get to the other side of victory. Have a wonderful day. Hey guys. Thank you for watching. Welcome back to Sisterhood Check-In. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you click like and share it with somebody that you know that can benefit from what I'm talking about today. And the topic that I've been discussing today is what is in your hand, right? What is in your hands? Learning how to be resourceful with what you already have, right? And the first half, I talked about how God gave us wealth, right? Power to get wealth, right? So that we can establish his covenant, right? And told us not to forget him when he does that, right? And I wanted to kind of talk about, the second half. I wanted to talk about why it's important to understand that success outside of your purpose means nothing. It's not real success, because what you do here on earth and the things that you do guide you towards God. And that what you do for God is the only thing that's going to last. What you do for God is going to benefit you in the earth realm, and it's going to be the only thing that's going to last when you get to heaven. That's the only thing that's going to matter, right? So focusing on what it is that God called you to do involves not just about you just making a few hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. God expected us to submit to principles. You can't work against principles and win. He gave us the power within the ability to operate within principles so that we can see changes in the people's lives that we contribute to and connect with, and for us to be able to bring glory to him and to see fruit in our own life, right? God said in Deuteronomy 8:18, beware that you don't forget God. And most of us are when you get to that place, and he was talking to the children of Israel, but we can learn from what he said in Deuteronomy. He said, beware, right? Means there's a possibility that you can forget God. There's a possibility that when you go only after the things of the world, that you can forget God. There's a possibility that you could act like he wasn't the one that gave you the power to get the things that you have. He said, but thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that give thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. And it shall be, if thou do not at all forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I testify you this day that you will surely perish. And so sometimes we have to look at our lives and realize who's governing our lives. Who's leading our lives? Are we being led by the Spirit of God and by are we being led by purpose, or are we being led by what we desire? We want the outcome, but we're not desiring his kingdom. We're not desiring his way of doing things. We're not desiring to make an impact. And then we may be wondering why we're not seeing the results. It could be that he might be slowing some things down, right? We are so in a mood for purpose. I want to pursue purpose. I want to operate in my purpose. When you haven't even taken the time to even discover who God is. So how are you going to know who you are and what you're supposed to do and how you contribute to what he's called you to do, and you don't even know him? God has imparted giftings and talents on the inside of us for us to pursue him, to understand how to operate in those giftings. But if you take the gift that he's giving you and you try to operate outside of purpose, you might establish some success, but success outside of purpose is not fulfilling. Ask some of the celebrities that you see out here that are blowing their brains out or that are doing things dishonestly for gain. They still, because they're trying to fulfill voids. Look at some of these people who walking around with no peace. When he said that the blessings of the Lord make it rich and addeth no sorrow, you have people who have all the resources in the world and they still don't have no peace. You have people who may not have all the resources in the world, but they may have some resources and they still don't have no peace. Because when your pursuit begins to be more about you and what you want to obtain from it, we do that in relationships. We do that with our family. Everything is about you. Everything is about you, what you can get from that person, what they can give you. What about what you can contribute to them? What about what you can contribute to that friendship? What can you contribute to that relationship? What can you contribute to your family's life? What can you contribute to your children? If all you have in mind is what you can get, it's a telltale sign that you are miserable. You are miserable because your life is consumed with everything else, with yourself, and it's not consumed with the things of God. I learned today 3 principles that I feel that are very instrumental in a believer's life, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a person pursuing your gifts or whatever talents. One is the principle of truth. Not inflating or lying about what you offer. You don't have to lie about the gifts and calling, whatever God called you to do. You don't have to lie about it. If you offer a transformation or something to someone that's going to bring complete change to their lives, right? Don't lie about it. Tell people the truth of what your gifting will bring to their lives. Or just better yet, just walk it out. And people will begin to see. You won't even have to say what you can do. People will watch you. People will watch you more than they will listen to you. I heard a lot of people have all the right things to say all the good things, but when you look at their life is totally contradictory to the things that they say they bring. Second principle I learned today is the principle of kindness. Treat people with respect. Treat people with love and care. I ain't never seen so many mean Christians before in my life. I have never seen so many mean people in my life. It's expected from people of the world. You can expect people to be mean. That's just the way it is. But if you carry the name of Jesus and you are completely mean-hearted and towards people, there is a problem. Wherever you go, you're supposed to bring light, right? We're supposed to be light in the midst of darkness, not gray. And that doesn't mean being kind, doesn't mean foolish. Being kind-hearted doesn't mean being taken advantage of either, laying down like a doormat. It means that you treat people with kindness and with respect. You treat them like with the understanding that they're made in the image of God, just like I am. The third principle I want to talk about that I learned today is the principle of diligence. And meaning maintaining the ability to do hard things. We only want to do things that are convenient for us. But when you have to go out of your way to do things for other people, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do the hard things. We want the easy stuff. Sometimes you might have to go and sit with people. Sometimes you might have to, the Bible said, faithful are the wounds of a friend, right? That means you might have to tell your friends the truth. You might have to be open and listening to your friends telling you the truth and not get hard-hearted about it and be acceptable to it and understand that if you trust them as a friend or you trust this person to speak into your life, then that means you give them the permission to give you counsel or give you counsel in a particular area of your life. But we don't want to do the hard thing. We ask for wisdom, and God raises somebody up and gives you wisdom in a particular area, and you don't take it seriously because you don't want to be inconvenienced and you don't want to do it. God tell you go and apologize to this person over here. You don't want to do it. God tell you, even though this person deserves to be punched in the face, to be smacked because of the things that they've done to you, and you take the hard road out and you walk away. And you walk away knowing that they deserve a good punch in the face because of what they said to you. The hard thing is knowing when your family is talking about you in your face, is talking about you behind your back, and then in your face smiling like God didn't reveal it. The hard thing is knowing that people don't like you and you still walking in love, right? The hard thing is knowing that people don't give a darn about you, but smile in your face and act like you, but when they see you, they like, oh. The hard thing is walking in love when you feel like they don't even deserve it. The hard thing is not wanting to go off when you know people are lying on you and saying all manner of evil against you, and you have to still smile and still walk in love. We don't want to do the hard thing. We want to always vindicate ourselves. We always want to be able to defend who we are. You don't have to defend who you are. Just be who you are and let the chips fall where they may. Be who you are, show up who you are, focus on the plan and purpose that God has for your life, and God will bring things, He will add things to you. As you pursue the will of God for your life, He said all these things that you seek, friendships, relationships, finances, children, marriages, peace, all these things that you seek, He already know you got need of it. But He gave us instructions on how to get it. He told us to seek first His kingdom, His way of doing things, and everything that we desire will be added to us. I digress. The power to serve people means being able to find a problem that you can serve by solving that problem. Find out, instead of trying to figure out, taking your gift and looking at it from a benefit of how you can benefit from it, right? Figure out what problem. I heard Miles Monroe say this in one of his videos, and he said, you were born to solve a problem for a question that your generation is asking. So what is God? Because if each of us are bought with a price and each of us are assigned a particular purpose, right, and called to a particular thing, find out what it is that God called you to do in another person's life. Don't just desire a relationship, a romantic relationship, just because you just want to get your fuzzies filled. But what can you contribute to that person's life? What can they contribute to you? And it's not going to be equal. And I hear, and I thought this was so important because this gave me another perspective about relationships, is that you may not be able to compete at the level of love that I compete at. I might be graced to love you beyond your fault. And you may not have that grace to love me beyond my faults. And that's okay. Right? But you might be stronger in another area. Right? We think of relationships in terms of everything being perfect on both ends. But what you bring to a relationship and what they bring is supposed to complement who you are. So when we begin to look at things from a perspective of let me take inventory and see what is on the inside of me, because what's on the inside of me is going to help me contribute to whoever it is that I wind up marrying. That means whatever God put on the inside of me, it's going to contribute to my children. That means whatever God has put on the inside of me, that is going to contribute to my business, to the people that I serve. That means everybody's going to benefit that is assigned to benefit, because I'm not called to everybody, and I'm okay with that. I'm not called to be a blessing to everybody, and I'm okay with that. And I know that everybody's not called to be a blessing to me, and I am okay with that too. And I know that everybody's not called to extend grace to me, and I understand that too. I'm good with that. Because in this season of my life, I want to focus on what God has called me to do, how to contribute to that purpose, and how to connect with people on a level that brings them back to Him. Before I went on a commercial, one of the things I was talking about and I wanted to continue is talking about the fact that you can do a ton of different things to generate revenue, right? You can do a ton of, in this day and age, we can make money, selling a toenail. I mean, there's just so many different ways. But when you are invested, when you are so invested into what it is that you have and the process on how you got there, you tend to talk to people from that perspective, and people don't care. They don't care about what your process was. They don't care. They just want to know. I always tell people three things. They want to know if you can help me, how you can help me, and if I could afford it. They want to know if you can help me, how you gonna help me, and how much is it gonna cost me. That's all they care about. So you got to know the transformation that you bring to it, whether it's to your job, whether it's to your parent, whether you're working from home, whether you're a single mom. What is God giving you? Have you taken inventory of the things that God has put in your hand? Because you might be out here trying to get other things. You're trying to accumulate all this other stuff, and you haven't even perfected what He's put in your hand. You out here trying to accumulate being the best at this and that and this, and you haven't even perfected what He's put in your hand, because it hasn't given you the results that you want it to. You haven't stuck it out long enough for it to bring transformation in you first, right? And for people to see that transformation and be able to speak from a level of conviction because of the transformation that took place in your life, no matter what level it is. Our ability to figure out how our giftings contribute to the life of other people is what you will find in your ability to be resourceful. Stop looking on the outside of you. Stop looking at people. Look at what God has put in your hand. What has he put in your hand? What is he giving you to contribute to the people that are around you? Focus on that, and then you will see that. And in the beginning, you may not even see the result that you want to see. But when it starts to change who you are, and you start to become a different person for which you're able to be the person to be able to perfect that is, then people will begin to see, I want whatever it is that she has. Whatever transformation she brings, I want it. You don't have time to be all over the place doing 8, 10, 50 million things that have nothing to do with God called you to. God called you to do one thing, and you over here doing 15 different businesses over here. And then you might be gaining some financial results. And there are times when sometimes you do. Sometimes you do have to do different things, right? Sometimes you do have to, to do different things in order to sustain until you figure out what God has called you to do. And then but that's not my issue. My issue is not you doing things to feed your family and to take care of your bills. That's not my issue. My issue is when you know what God called you to do and you sit it down and you put it down because it's not producing what you think it should produce. And then you wind up going and spending all of your effort and energy into what you perceive is bringing results because it's bringing you financial gain. But I can tell you, you're not going to be satisfied until you start doing what God called you to do. I don't care how much money you're producing from it. Because at the end of the day, the only fulfillment that you're going to have, the only success that you're going to have is doing what God called you to do. Working outside of your purpose is not going to be fulfilling. We all have the ability to do 100 different things. Why is it that in doing these 100 different things, we are not producing the results that we want? Though we live in the era where we are able to do so many things from so many different angles, and yet we are still not fulfilled. It is a reason. Your resourcefulness is not about you finding out what to do to make money. Your resourcefulness is your ability to discover what God has put on the inside of you and finding out how to use that to contribute to your community. Whether that's an online community, whether that's a physical community where you're going somewhere, whether you're doing seminars. Being resourceful means figuring out what God has placed on the inside of you and how it's impacting the lives and changing the lives of the people that are around you. And everything else will begin to work on your behalf. Will begin to figure. Everything else will be added to you. Everything else will be granted. You'll look up and be like, oh, wow. So I want you to focus, and I'm going to go ahead and end with this. Right. I had so many notes, but I just do not have the time to go through all of them because I'll be here all day. It's crazy because back, a couple years ago, I used to always be so scared to get on, and I used to be nervous to do stuff. And now it's just never enough time for me to cover everything that I want to cover. So I want to go over this. Make sure you read this in your own time. Deuteronomy 8:18, where it talks about God give us the power to get wealth so we can establish his kingdom. Right. I want you to go over that. Right. 2 Corinthians, we're bought with a price. That means your life is not your own. I know. They told us we're supposed to live our best life, right? But you're not living your best life until you do what God has called you to do. You ain't living no best life. God has given us the power to get wealth, which means he gave us the ability to accomplish through our resourcefulness, the things that he's put in our hands so we can establish his kingdom on earth. Your ability and your power to subject yourself to your purpose is important. If you don't subject yourself to the reason in which God created you, you will live a miserable life. You will be successful at doing a whole bunch of other things, and you will be, even though you might appear externally to feel like you got all things together, but in your private time, you will feel like I'm lost. Your ability to even be resourceful depends on your mental state of health. You have to take care of your mental state state of health. You have to take care of yourself. Sometimes you have to quiet down all the noise. Sometimes you have to shut people and things out and tune people out so you can hear God. Because people will fill your ear up with all kinds of things and opinions and thoughts and this. You've got to learn how to be still and be able to recognize. He said, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow. I just need strategy. I just need to know what to do. He tells you. He gives you the power to. But we want people to tell us what to do. We don't want to seek God for ourselves so that he can give us instructions because we haven't learned. We want the easy way out. Just tell me what to do. And sometimes God ain't give the whole plan out to another person. He is a reason why he told us to pursue him, right? Because he wants to be the one to lay out the plans for your life. He wants to be the ones that give you instructions on what to do. He wants to be able to tell you, show you what's in your hand, show you what he's imparting to you. He wants to be able to do that, but he can't do that if you want a shortcut out. People can tell you all day long, go left, go right, go do this, go do that. But what did God tell you? You're not going to get away from the accountability of you seeking God for instructions. Because he told us if you acknowledge him in all of his ways, he will direct your path. But we don't take the time to figure out because it's too hard. I can't really hear. And he gave us his word so that we can be able to understand who he is, so that the scriptures point us to him so that we can build a relationship with him and to be able to hear his voice, to know what he sounds like when he speaks. But we have so much chaos. We have so many things going on in our lives that we can't distinguish what is God and what isn't. We got too many people talking on here. Everybody got an opinion. Everybody got a solution. Everybody got something going on. Sometimes you have to shut everybody down. And you have to wait and allow God to speak to your heart to tell you what to do. And he will. He's not going to leave you stranded. Oh my God. I know it from experience. He's not going to leave you stranded. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path. You've identified what your gift is. Okay. That's the first thing. Now take your gift back to him and ask the Lord, what do I do with this? I might be a person that I can't get to where I wanted. I can't do this that I see the way I wanted to right now in this area, in this season of my life. Show me how to take what I do. Let me tell you something. I love to cook, like I told you. When I didn't have any resources, I took my gift to be able to cook and I went on DoorDash. I didn't leave any stone unturned. I didn't make excuses. Well, I don't know. Well, it didn't work. No, I made it work. And if I wasn't able to do it before DoorDash, I took it. All I knew how to do was cook and encourage people, right? That's all I knew how to do. So what I do, I started writing journals and books to encourage people. I started building mentoring classes, mentorship camps so that I can be able to encourage young teenage girls who are dealing with the same thing I dealt with as a teenager. There's no excuse. But the difference is when you're working, we get it. When you're working a 9 to 5, you get it. It's easy. When you're working a 9 to 5, you don't have that pressure of being able to get it done because you know that if whether you work or don't work, that you're gonna get a paycheck regardless. But when you're working when you're working with the will and plan and purposes of God for your life, sometimes he will have you in a position where you have to lean and depend on him for everything. And nowadays we don't talk about that because we talk about a God. We in a have it your way society. We don't even know how to wait on the Lord and be of good courage no more. We don't know how to wait because we don't know how to wait because we live in a generation where I want manifestation now, not realizing that the process that God takes us through while we're manifesting builds something on the inside of you. He imparts something on the inside of you that's going to keep you grounded and anchored in him. But we don't want to be anchored in him. We just want his hand. Just give me what you're going to give me so I can go about my life and go about and do my business. First, I think it's First Thessalonians 4, where it says, hold on, let me pull it up. I'm gonna say this last thing, and then I'm gonna go ahead and end because I got some stuff I gotta do in the morning. So I'm gonna get some rest. But we're gonna read this. First Thessalonians chapter 4. First Thessalonians chapter 4. Hold on one second. Computer moving slow. So be patient with me. I know it's late, but I want to share this with you because this is going to end my point and what I said. First Thessalonians chapter 4. Wait for it to go. Let me just use my computer, my phone, because my computer is taking such a long time. So I'm going to pull it up on my phone so we can get through this. And I pray that you're blessed. If you're blessed and you're enjoying this, thank you so much for all those that decided to stay and those that are going to watch it later on. I know it's late, and I appreciate all of your engagement and support. First Thessalonians chapter 4. Second Thessalonians. My bad. I'm sorry. Oh, First Thessalonians chapter 5. And I know this ain't nobody but the enemy because he don't want me to get this scripture up. But it's going to come up. But I'm going to read it because God's word, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So it's not just enough just to read it. Sometimes you need to hear it. So I want to read it so that those of you that are hearing it can increase in your faith, right? Okay, so here we go. King James Version, I'm reading from 1 Thessalonians 4 and 11. 1 Thessalonians 4 and 11 says, hold on, my computer freezing up. I tell you, it's freezing on my phone and everything else. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11 says, and that you study to be quiet and to do your own business and to work with your own hands as we have commanded you, that you may walk honestly towards them that are without, and that you may have lack of nothing. What has God put in your hand? Notice that he says, study to be quiet. Mind your business. Stay out of folks' conversations. Stay out of folks' business. Stay off the internet wondering what is going to happen with this celebrity or that step. Study to be quiet. Do your own business. Mind your business. Tend to what God has given you. Be resourceful with what God has given you. Tend to your own business and work with your own hands as we have commanded you, that you may walk honestly toward them that are without, and that you may have lack of nothing. If you are lacking in any particular area of your life, it could be because you are not adhering to what it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. It says study to be quiet. Don't be so quick and eager to be in the limelight. Don't worry about being seen, right, by all these people who ain't going to contribute to your life anyway. Do your own business so that you don't have lack of anything. Take what God has given you. Be resourceful and ask God to show you how to multiply what he's giving you in your hand, because he's giving it to you for a reason. And if you've had this gift and you've known this gift for a long time, then what's missing is your ability to perceive what he's saying to you about your gift. Because the Bible says in Job 33, God speaks once, yea, twice, but man perceiveth it not. So you have to speak to him in a dream. I'm just summarizing it. and to give him instructions in a dream. So when you don't adhere to what God is showing you, wait till you go to sleep because you're busy doing so many different things. Sometimes you have to be still. You have to wait for God to give you instructions on what to do next. And he knows. He's not going to let you, he's not going to just let you seek him and not respond. He's a God that answers. We see all through scripture, he's a God that answers. The problem is we're confused and we have so much stuff going on in our mind. And we're not remembering that he did give us the power. He gave us the power to get it, but he told us not to forget him. So while you're discovering your gifts, don't forget it's him that gave you the ability to have that gift. He gave you that gift. Don't forget. Don't take your gift and run over here and feel like, oh, I'm good at this. I'm going to go do this. Don't forget. He's the one that gave you that. He's the one that gave you the power to get it. So while you're out there doing stuff and you have that in your mind, and you're working with your hands, there's no way God will not provide for you in the area that you need the most. And if you're still having trouble and you need help with this, then you can also go to my website at www.coachingwithnadira.com. It's right here at the bottom, over here, under my name. Point over here, under my name. www.coachingwithnadira.com. I do have resources that are available to you that you can use to help you in your spiritual journey. And if you need to talk to me one-on-one, you can also book an appointment with me. You can book a call with me also on the Coaching with Nadira also. And I'll be glad to help you in wherever you are in your journey and be able to figure out and help you shake out the kinks. And sometimes it just takes just talking to somebody. Sometimes it just takes getting with somebody and somebody aligning you and showing you a few things and showing you how to tweak some things for you to get to where you need to be. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for all of you that are watching me on Instagram. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for all that are watching on Facebook, on the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs page also. Thank you for all of those that are watching on TikTok too. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you next time. I hope you have a great and amazing weekend. Thanks for watching.
Help me to trust him again with my heart and not be scared, looking over my shoulder when it comes to his actions because I felt betrayed by him. Help me to trust his good intentions towards me.
All right. And before you guys go, I forgot to mention this one other thing. I have the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs line is in. Those of you that have not gone to my site, I forgot to mention this during the site, but look at this. We have totes, bags, all kinds of stuff. The material is amazing. Look how soft it is. It's a Becoming a Woman of Proverbs bag. So make sure you guys go to the website. This is so amazing. I love the material of it. So if you want a bag, if you want to see what products that I have for the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs, Strength and Honor Her Clothing line, make sure you go to coachingwithnadira.com. Again, that's coachingwithnadira.com. I'm telling you, these bags are amazing. You know, when I got it in and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love the fact that the material is very sturdy, very sturdy. And the inside of it is black. You have a place you could store things in and up here. So you guys, you could put something in here. You want to put your wallet or stuff in here. You have a drink or something. You could use it for anything. You could use it as a baby bag. You could use it, to put your personal items in. You can use it for whatever, but it is definitely, I love the material. The back of it says Becoming a Woman of Proverbs. So my thing is, I always say, don't just say it, wear it. So this will be a great gift for somebody that is, whether they're a mom or whether they just, you might have to go to work and you might need to, want to kind of use it. You can use it as a lunch bag, or you can use it as your personal bag, whatever. But make sure you check out my website, Becoming a Woman Coaching with Nadira.com, and make sure you get your bag today. I'm telling you, this bag is very sturdy. And make sure you check out my daughter's page, repurpose.com. She has made some amazing, she's written a book, Lord, Help Me to Forgive. It's an amazing journal that kind of gives you the opportunity to be able to deal with unforgiveness. And how many of y'all know we all struggle with unforgiveness? So if you love us, then make sure then I ask that you support my page. Go to coachingwithnadira.com, go to lepricheroman.com, and I'll see you next week. I hope I've been a blessing to you. Have an amazing weekend.